The champagne flute shattered against marble as Natasha's ex-husband's boot connected with her ribs, sending her crashing into the fountain display at Seoul's most exclusive shopping center. Blood bloomed across white silk as designer bags scattered like fallen leaves, and through her blurred vision, she locked eyes with a man in black who moved like violence incarnate, Kang Min-ho, whose empire was built on fear, whose heart had turned to stone years ago, until this moment when something dormant and terrifying roared to life inside his chest as he watched this beautiful broken woman refuse to beg. Welcome to Afrokorean Central, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. Natasha tasted copper and humiliation as Marcus stood over her, his new girlfriend laughing behind perfectly manicured hands. The crowd gathered, but no one moved to help. They never did. Not when Marcus Webb held this much power, this much influence in Seoul's expatriate circles. Pathetic, Marcus sneered, his American accent cutting through the atrium's expensive acoustics. Still wearing that cheap dress I threw out 3 years ago. Still pretending you belong in places like this. Natasha's hands shook as she tried to gather the scattered contents of her worn purse. A lipstick. Crumpled bills. The divorce papers she'd been carrying for months, unable to afford the filing fee. Her body ached from where his designer boot had connected with her ribs, but the pain in her chest hurt worse, the shame of being nothing, having nothing, being invisible to everyone who mattered. Marcus, please. The words escaped before she could stop them. The money you promised. For the apartment. I have nowhere else to go. His laugh echoed off imported Italian marble. That money. I spent it on Chelsea's new Birkin. He gestured to the blonde beside him, who preened. You were always too stupid to understand how the world works, Natasha. Beautiful women are decorations. And I've upgraded. The security guards approached slowly, their expressions apologetic but firm. Natasha knew what came next. She'd be escorted out. Banned. Added to another list of places where broken, poor black women didn't belong. She pushed herself up, dignity scraping together from some deep reserve she didn't know still existed. Blood dripped from her split lip onto white marble. Her dress, the one good piece she'd kept from her marriage, was torn at the shoulder. I hope she makes you happy, Natasha said quietly, gathering her things with trembling fingers. I hope she's everything I wasn't. She turned toward the exit, vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall where Marcus could see them. The crowd parted like water, their eyes sliding past her as though poverty was contagious. As though pain was something best ignored. She made it 3 steps before a hand caught her wrist. The touch was gentle but unmovable. Natasha looked up into the face of the man from across the atrium, the one who'd been watching with an expression she couldn't read. He was tall, devastatingly handsome in that sharp, dangerous way that made smart women run. Korean features carved from stone, expensive black suit tailored to emphasize broad shoulders and lean strength. Eyes so dark they absorbed light. You're bleeding, he said in Korean accented English, his voice low and controlled. Too controlled. I'm fine. Natasha tried to pull away, but his grip tightened fractionally. Not painful. Possessive. You're not fine. His gaze moved past her to Marcus, and something lethal flickered across his features. Who did this to you? It doesn't matter. Please, I just want to leave. But Min-ho was already moving, pulling her with him toward Marcus and Chelsea. The crowd sensed the shift in energy, pressing back to create space. Security guards froze mid-step, their radios suddenly crackling with urgent messages. Min-ho stopped in front of Marcus with the stillness of a predator deciding how to kill its prey. You touched her, Min-ho said quietly. Not a question. A statement of fact that somehow carried the weight of a death sentence. Marcus's confidence faltered. Up close, everyone could see what Natasha had felt. This man was different. Dangerous. The kind of powerful that didn't need to announce itself because everyone with survival instincts already knew. This is a private matter between me and my ex-wife, Marcus blustered. I don't know who you think you are, but... Kang Min-ho. The name dropped like a bomb. Marcus went pale. Even Chelsea's smile died. The crowd pulled back another foot, suddenly remembering urgent business elsewhere. Natasha watched understanding dawn on her ex-husband's face. He'd just kicked someone precious to the most feared man in Seoul's underground. I didn't know, Marcus stammered. I had no idea she was connected to. She wasn't. Minho's hand moved to Natasha's lower back, burning through thin silk. Until now. Consider this your only warning. Touch her again, look at her again, breathe in her direction again, and I'll make sure you understand exactly what that means. The threat was delivered with such cold precision that Natasha felt Marcus's fear like a physical presence. Security guards who'd been ready to throw her out now stood at rigid attention. The store manager appeared from nowhere, apologizing profusely to Minho while pointedly ignoring Marcus entirely. "Sir, please accept our deepest apologies." "Whatever Mrs." He paused, uncertain. "Mrs. Kong," Minho supplied smoothly, the lie sliding out with practiced ease. "My wife and I were simply shopping when this man assaulted her. I trust the authorities will be notified." The manager nearly tripped over himself agreeing. Marcus tried to protest, but two security guards were already escorting him and Chelsea toward the exit. The beautiful, powerful couple who'd ruled Seoul's expatriate social scene now looked small and terrified. Natasha stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. This stranger, this dangerous, beautiful stranger, had just claimed her as his wife. Had just appended her entire reality with a few quiet words. "You're still bleeding," Minho said, his attention returning to her with an intensity that made her breath catch. His thumb moved to her split lip, wiping away blood with unexpected gentleness. "Come with me." It wasn't a request. Before Natasha could formulate a response, he was guiding her through the crowd, his hand never leaving her back. They moved toward a private elevator, the kind reserved for VIPs and people who owned entire floors. The doors opened at his approach as though the building itself recognized its master. Inside the elevator, silence pressed down like a weight. Natasha's heart hammered against her ribs, the same ribs Marcus had kicked. Reality was catching up with shock, and she started to shake. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why did you help me? You don't know me." Minho's jaw tightened. "I know enough. You know nothing. I'm nobody. Just another poor woman who got thrown away when she stopped being useful." His eyes cut to hers, and Natasha saw something burning in their depths that made her stomach flip. "You're wrong." The elevator doors opened onto a private floor, a luxury medical clinic with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul. A doctor appeared immediately, as though she'd been waiting. Minho spoke to her in rapid Korean, too fast for Natasha to follow with her basic understanding of the language. The doctor, Dr. Kim, according to her badge, guided Natasha to an examination room and began cleaning her wounds with efficient gentleness. Minho stood in the doorway, watching. Not leaving. His presence filled the space like smoke, impossible to ignore. "Your rib is bruised but not broken," Dr. Kim said in careful English. "The cut on your lip will heal without stitches. You're very lucky." Lucky. Natasha wanted to laugh. Lucky would have been Marcus never noticing her at a Lagos nightclub 5 years ago. Lucky would have been seeing through his charm before she married him. Lucky would have been not ending up homeless and humiliated on the floor of Seoul's most expensive shopping center. "Thank you," she said instead, "because politeness was armor when you had nothing else." Dr. Kim finished bandaging her, offered painkillers Natasha couldn't afford, then left with a meaningful glance at Minho. The door clicked shut, and suddenly they were alone. "You called me your wife," Natasha said, needing to break the silence. "You lied to protect me." "Why?" Minho moved closer, and Natasha's pulse jumped. He was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at directly. Sharp features, perfect skin, eyes that saw too much. But it was the way he moved that undid her. Like violence wrapped in silk. Like danger disguised as safety. "Because watching him hurt you made me want to kill him," Minho said simply. "And I don't kill people over strangers. So you can't be a stranger." The logic was twisted, terrifying, and somehow made perfect sense in this moment when nothing else did. "I can't be your wife. I can't be anything to you. I have nothing." Natasha gestured at herself, the torn dress, the bandages, the evidence of her complete failure at life. "I'm homeless. Broke. My visa expires in 2 months and I have no way to extend it. I'm leaving Seoul whether I want to or not." "Then don't leave." "It's not that simple. I'm making it simple." Minho closed the distance between them until Natasha could feel heat radiating from his body. Stay in Seoul. Let me take care of the visa situation. Let me make sure that man never touches you again. I don't need saving. I need—" Her voice broke. What did she need? Money. Safety. Dignity. A reason to believe she was worth more than Marcus's boot heel. "Tell me what you need," Minho said, and his hand came up to cup her jaw with devastating gentleness. "Anything. Name it." Natasha closed her eyes against tears that finally spilled over. "Why? Why do you care?" His thumb caught her tears, wiping them away with the same care he'd used for her blood. "Because when I saw you on that floor, refusing to beg, protecting your dignity even when everything else was being taken from you," he paused, searching for words. "Something in me recognized something in you." "What?" "Someone worth protecting. Someone worth keeping." The words shouldn't have affected her. But God, they did. After years of being told she was worthless, disposable, not enough, this stranger saw value. This dangerous, powerful man looked at her broken pieces and decided they were worth collecting. "I don't even know you," Natasha whispered. "Then let me introduce myself properly." Minho's hand slid from her jaw to the nape of her neck, anchoring her in place. "I'm Kong Minho. I run several businesses in Seoul. Some legal, some less so. I'm wealthy, powerful, and people fear me for good reason. I don't do relationships. I don't do emotional attachments. I especially don't save women from bad situations. But—" his lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "But today, I watched you get kicked in front of a crowd and still hold your head high. I watched you bleed and still try to maintain dignity. I watched you be treated like garbage and still say please and thank you." His voice dropped. "And I decided that anyone who could do that while wearing a 3-year-old dress and carrying divorce papers she can't afford to file deserves better than what she's been given." Natasha's breath caught. "How did you know about the divorce papers?" "They fell out of your purse. I saw them." Of course he had. This man saw everything. "I can't accept your help," Natasha said, even as every cell in her body screamed at her to take what he was offering. "I don't know what you want in return, but I can't afford it. I want you safe. I want Marcus Webb to understand that touching you has consequences. And I want you to stop looking at me like I'm going to hurt you when all I want to do is—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "What?" Natasha challenged. "What do you want to do?" Minho's eyes darkened. "Things I shouldn't want to do to a woman I just met. Things that would terrify you if you knew what I was thinking right now." The air between them turned electric. Natasha knew she should step back, put distance between herself and this intensity. But her body refused to cooperate, drawn to him like metal to magnet. "Try me," she whispered. The words hung between them, dangerous and full of promise. Minho's hand tightened on her neck fractionally before he forced himself to release her, stepping back with visible effort. "Not like this," he said roughly. "Not when you're hurt. Not when I just pulled you off the floor." He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect styling. "Ask me again when you're healed. When you're not in shock. When you actually know what you're offering." Natasha felt the loss of his touch like cold water. "What if I change my mind?" "You won't." The absolute certainty in his voice should have been arrogant. Instead, it sent shivers down her spine. "Now come with me. I'm taking you somewhere safe." "Where?" "My home." The following morning, Natasha woke in the most comfortable bed she'd ever experienced, in a room bigger than most apartments, in a penthouse that overlooked all of Seoul like a kingdom. For a confused moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then the ache in her ribs reminded her, yesterday had been horrifyingly real. She found Minho in his kitchen, drinking coffee and reading something on his phone. He'd changed into casual clothes, black slacks and a white shirt with sleeves rolled to reveal forearms marked with subtle scars. The domesticity of the scene clashed with everything she knew about him. "Did you sleep well?" he asked without looking up. "Too well. That bed costs more than I made in a year when I was working." Now he did look up, and something in his expression made Natasha's breath catch. "When you were working." Past tense. "Why aren't you working now?" She poured herself coffee, needing something to do with her hands. "Marcus made sure I couldn't." Called my employers, told them I was unstable, unreliable. By the time I realized what he was doing, I had a reputation. No one would hire me. Min-ho's jaw clenched. He isolated you deliberately. He said it was because he loved me, because he wanted to take care of me. Then one day I came home and found him with Chelsea. Natasha laughed bitterly. In our bed. In the apartment I couldn't afford without him. He looked at me and said, "I'm bored now. You can leave." The silence that followed was dangerous. When Natasha finally looked at Min-ho, his expression was cold enough to freeze blood. "His name is on a list now," Min-ho said quietly. "A very specific list of people who don't get second chances." "What does that mean?" "It means Marcus Webb should be very careful about his business dealings from now on. Very careful about who he trusts. Very careful about staying on my good side." Min-ho's smile was sharp enough to cut. "It means consequences are coming, even if he doesn't see them yet." Natasha should have been frightened by the casual way he discussed destroying someone's life. Instead, she felt something dark and satisfied curl in her chest. Justice. Protection. Someone finally on her side. "I need to find work," she said, steering the conversation to safer ground. "I can't stay here indefinitely, living off your charity." "It's not charity." Min-ho stood, moving around the kitchen island until he was close enough to touch. "And you already have a job." "What?" "You're going to work for me. Executive assistant position. Good salary. Benefits. Visa sponsorship if you want to stay in Korea long-term." Natasha stared at him. "I'm not qualified to be anyone's executive assistant." "You speak English and Korean. You have a degree in business from Lagos University. I had someone check. You're organized, intelligent, and you need money." His hand came up to tuck a curl behind her ear. "More importantly, you'll be where I can see you. Where I know you're safe." "This is insane. You don't give jobs to random women you meet in shopping malls." "I don't. I give jobs to women I've decided to keep close." The words were possessive, claiming, completely inappropriate. "Start Monday. I'll have contracts drawn up. Say yes, Natasha." She should say no. Should run from this intensity, this man who looked at her like he wanted to devour her and protect her in equal measure. But desperation was a powerful motivator, and Min-ho was offering everything she needed wrapped in danger she couldn't resist. "Yes," Natasha whispered. "I'll work for you." His smile was triumphant and beautiful. "Good. Now come with me. We're going shopping. I don't need. You need everything. Don't argue with me on this." The following week passed in a blur of surreal luxury. Min-ho took her shopping, not to the mall where Marcus had humiliated her, but to private boutiques where assistants called him by name and treated Natasha like royalty. He bought her an entire wardrobe of professional clothes, ignoring her protests about costs. "Consider it a uniform," he said when she objected to a particularly expensive designer suit. "You represent me now. You need to look the part." He set her up in a furnished apartment near his penthouse, beautiful, safe, far beyond what she could have afforded on her own. When she tried to discuss rent, he cut her off with a look that suggested the conversation was closed. "You work for me. I take care of my people. This is how it works." Monday morning, Natasha arrived at Min-ho's office building in Gangnam, sleek glass and steel that screamed power and money. His executive floor was all modern luxury and hushed efficiency. Employees greeted Min-ho with respectful fear, their eyes sliding past Natasha with careful curiosity. His personal assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Ji-won, showed Natasha to her new desk right outside Min-ho's private office. "Close. Always close. Mr. Kang is very particular about his assistants," Ji-won said in Korean-accented English. "You'll need to learn his preferences quickly. He doesn't tolerate mistakes." "I'll do my best." Ji-won studied her with an expression Natasha couldn't read. "You're different from his usual type." "What's his usual type?" "Women who don't last long enough to get desks." Ji-won's smile was knowing. "You should be careful. Mr. Kang is brilliant and generous, but he's also dangerous." People who get too close to him tend to get hurt. Before Natasha could respond, Minho's door opened and he gestured for her to enter. His office was spectacular. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, an entire wall of screens showing various business operations in real time. "Close the door," Minho said, his attention focused on something on his computer. Natasha obeyed, suddenly nervous despite the week they'd spent together. This was different. This was work. Professional. She needed to prove she deserved this opportunity. "I need you to review these contracts," Minho said, pulling up documents on a tablet and handing it to her. "Tell me if anything seems unusual." Natasha spent the next hour poring over complex business agreements, using the legal knowledge she'd gained during her marriage to Marcus. She flagged 3 clauses that seemed problematic, explaining her reasoning in careful detail. Minho listened with that intense focus she was beginning to recognize as his default setting. When she finished, he smiled. "Excellent. Those were test clauses my legal team inserted to see if you'd catch them." He leaned back in his chair. "You're smarter than you give yourself credit for, Natasha." Pride warmed her chest. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. You earned this position." His eyes held hers. "Now let's discuss the real reason I hired you." Her stomach tightened. "Which is?" "I need someone I can trust completely. Someone who isn't already embedded in my organization with their own agendas. Someone who has no reason to betray me because I'm the only thing standing between them and disaster." The honesty was brutal and somehow refreshing. "You hired me because I'm desperate. I hired you because you're smart, capable, and I want you close to me." Minho stood, moving around his desk. "The desperation just made it easier to convince you to say yes." "That's manipulative." "It is." He stopped in front of her. "I'm not going to pretend I'm a good man, Natasha. I'm selfish. I take what I want. And I want you working for me, living near me, dependent on me in ways that make it impossible for you to walk away easily." She should be angry. Should be terrified of this admission. But his honesty was more seductive than lies would have been. "What exactly do you want from me?" Natasha asked. Minho's hand came up to trace her jaw, his touch setting her nerves on fire. "Everything. Your time. Your attention. Your trust." Eventually, he paused, something hungry flickering in his eyes. "Everything else too. I'm not sleeping with my boss. I'm not asking you to. Not yet. Not until you want it as much as I do." His thumb brushed her lower lip, now healed from where Marcus's boot had split it. "But you will, Natasha. You'll want me so badly you won't be able to think straight. And when that happens, when you come to me and ask for what we both know is inevitable, I'll give you everything you've been missing." The promise in his words made her knees weak. Natasha stepped back, needing distance from the intensity radiating off him. "We should keep this professional," she said, her voice shakier than she wanted. "We should," Minho agreed. "But we won't. Because from the moment I saw you on that floor, refusing to break even when everything was breaking around you, I was lost. You got under my skin, Natasha. And I don't let go of things that matter." That evening, Natasha returned to her new apartment exhausted and overwhelmed. The day had been a whirlwind of meetings, contracts, and Minho's constant presence pulling at her like gravity. She was beginning to understand what G1 had warned her about. Being close to Minho was addictive and dangerous in equal measure. She was preparing dinner when her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Natasha." Marcus's voice sent ice through her veins. "We need to talk. We have nothing to discuss." "I think we do. I want you to know that whatever Kong Minho told you about me, whatever threats he made, I'm not afraid of him." Natasha almost laughed. Marcus sounded terrified. "Then you're stupid. Stay away from me, Marcus." "Or what? Your new boyfriend will come after me?" "I know his type. Rich, powerful men who treat women like toys until they get bored. He'll throw you away just like I did." The words hurt because part of her feared they were true. But she'd learned to hide pain. "Goodbye, Marcus." She hung up, blocking his number immediately. But the call had shaken her. Made her doubt. Made her wonder if she was trading one trap for another, one powerful man for a different kind of danger. A knock at her door interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Through the peephole, she saw Min-ho standing in the hallway, still in his work clothes but with his tie loosened and top button undone. He looked exhausted and beautiful and far too tempting. Natasha opened the door. "How did you know where I live? I own the building. I always know where you are." His eyes scanned her face, reading things she hadn't said. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I'm fine." "You're lying. Tell me what happened." She shouldn't. Should maintain boundaries. But God, she was so tired of carrying everything alone. Marcus called. Made threats. Reminded me that men like you don't keep women like me. Min-ho's expression turned lethal. "Give me your phone." "Why?" "Because I'm going to handle this. Now." Something in his voice made her obey. She handed over her phone and watched him scroll through her blocked numbers, find Marcus's information, and make a call. "Marcus Webb. This is Kong Min-ho. You just made a very serious mistake calling what's mine." His voice was pure ice. "Let me explain something to you. Every business deal you have in Seoul goes through people I control. Every connection you've made, every favor you think you're owed, I can destroy all of it with 3 phone calls. And I will, if you contact Natasha again." Natasha couldn't hear Marcus's response, but she watched Min-ho's face harden further. "I don't make empty threats. By tomorrow morning, you'll understand exactly what it costs to disrespect what belongs to me. Stay away from her, or discover what happens when I stop being civil." He ended the call and returned her phone, his hand shaking slightly with controlled rage. "He won't bother you again. You can't just destroy someone's life because they called me." "Yes, I can. And I will." Min-ho stepped into her apartment, backing her against the wall with careful intensity. "You need to understand something, Natasha. From the moment I claimed you as mine in that mall, from the moment I decided to keep you close, you stopped being negotiable. You stopped being something people can hurt without consequences. I'm not yours. I work for you. That's all." His hand came up to cup her face, and Natasha's traitorous body leaned into his touch despite her protests. "You're lying to yourself. You feel this too, this pull between us. This certainty that something changed when our eyes met across that mall." His thumb traced her lips. "Tell me you don't think about me. Tell me you don't wonder what it would be like if I kissed you right now. Tell me you don't want me as much as I want you." Natasha couldn't tell him any of those things because they would all be lies. She did think about him constantly. Did wonder about his kiss. Did want him with an intensity that terrified her. "This is too fast," she whispered. "I just got out of a terrible marriage. I'm broken and poor and completely dependent on you. Nothing about this is healthy. I don't care about healthy. I care about you being safe. Being protected. Being mine." Min-ho's forehead pressed against hers. "But I'll wait. I'll give you time to trust me. Time to see that I'm not Marcus. Time to understand that when I say you're mine, I mean forever, not until I get bored." "How can you be so sure? You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you're strong and proud and you'd rather starve than beg. I know you held your head high even when your world was ending. I know that watching you bleed made me want to commit murder." His voice dropped to something rough and possessive. "And I know that having you close to me feels right in a way nothing else ever has." The intensity of his words, his touch, his presence overwhelmed her. Natasha's hands came up to push him away but ended up fisting in his shirt instead, holding him close. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared of needing you. Scared of what happens when you realize I'm not worth all this trouble. Then I'll spend every day proving your fears wrong." Min-ho's lips brushed her forehead, gentle and devastating. "Trust me, Natasha. Let me take care of you. Let me show you what it's like to be valued." She was falling. Fast and hard and completely against her better judgment. But God help her, being this close to Min-ho felt like coming home after years of being lost. "Okay," she whispered against his chest. "But slowly. I need to do this slowly." His arms tightened around her. We have time. All the time you need. They stood like that for long moments, wrapped around each other, hearts beating in sync. Outside, Seoul glittered with lights and possibility. Inside her small apartment, Natasha felt safer than she had in years. Tomorrow would bring complications. Questions. The messy reality of their impossible situation. But tonight, she had this, Minho's warmth, his strength, his absolute certainty that she was worth protecting. It was more than she'd had in longer than she could remember. And for now, it was enough. The following weeks settled into a rhythm that felt both natural and surreal. Natasha worked at Minho's side daily, learning the intricacies of his business empire, the legitimate hotels and restaurants that fronted his less legal operations. She was smart enough not to ask too many questions about the meetings conducted in back rooms or the men who arrived with careful eyes and dangerous reputations. Minho was a demanding boss but fair. He pushed her to think critically, to challenge assumptions, to use the intelligence she'd been told to hide during her marriage. Every day, she felt herself becoming stronger, more confident. The woman Marcus had tried to break was being rebuilt piece by piece. And through it all, Minho watched her with eyes that promised things that made her breath catch. 1 month after she'd started working for him, Minho invited her to a business dinner. High-end restaurant, important clients, the kind of event where appearances mattered. Natasha wore one of the designer dresses he'd bought her, deep emerald that hugged her curves and made her dark skin glow. When she emerged from her bedroom, Minho's expression stopped her heart. He looked at her like she was something precious and dangerous, like he wanted to lock her away and show her off simultaneously. "You're beautiful," he said, his voice rough. "Dangerously beautiful. It's just a dress. It's not the dress." He moved closer, his hand settling on her waist with possessive ease. "It's you. The way you carry yourself now. The way you've stopped apologizing for existing." Heat bloomed under his touch. They'd been careful over the past month, professional during work hours, friendly but distant outside them. But the tension between them built with every passing day, every accidental touch, every look that lasted too long. "We should go," Natasha said, needing distance from the intensity in his eyes. "Don't want to be late for your important dinner." "They can wait." But he released her, stepping back with visible effort. "Come. My driver is waiting." The restaurant was exclusive and expensive, all dark wood and candlelight. Minho kept his hand on Natasha's back as they moved through the space, a gesture that looked casual but felt claiming. She noticed other women watching him with interest, their gazes turning cold when they landed on her. His business associates were already seated, older Korean men with sharp eyes and calculating expressions. They greeted Minho with respect that bordered on fear, their attention sliding to Natasha with curiosity. "Gentlemen, this is Natasha, my executive assistant," Minho said in Korean before switching to English for her benefit. "She'll be sitting in on our discussions." The dinner proceeded with careful negotiations about property investments and shipping routes. Natasha took notes, asked intelligent questions, and watched Minho operate in his element. He was brilliant and ruthless, seeing angles others missed, closing deals with strategic precision. She was so focused on the business discussion that she didn't notice the new arrival until Minho went rigid beside her. Marcus Webb stood at their table with Chelsea clinging to his arm, his expression twisted with false confidence. Seeing him sent ice through Natasha's veins, but she forced herself to remain calm. She was different now. Stronger. Protected. "Kong Minho," Marcus said with forced cheerfulness. "Small world. And Natasha, looking well. New dress. Someone clearly upgraded your wardrobe." Minho's hand found Natasha's under the table, squeezing gently. "A silent message. I've got you." "Mr. Webb," Minho said coldly. "I believe I made myself clear about staying away from what's mine." "Relax. I'm just being friendly. No law against saying hello to my ex-wife in a public place." "There should be." Minho stood, and everyone at the table tensed. "Gentlemen, excuse us for a moment. This won't take long." He guided Natasha away from the table, keeping himself between her and Marcus. But her ex-husband followed, Chelsea trailing behind with worried eyes. "This is pathetic, Natasha," Marcus said, his voice carrying across the restaurant. "Playing assistant to some gangster? We both know what you really are to him. You're warming his bed until he gets bored, just like you did for me." The words cut despite the month of healing. Natasha felt shame try to rise, felt the old insecurities clawing at her carefully rebuilt confidence. "That's enough." Minho's voice was deadly quiet. "You have 5 seconds to leave this restaurant before I have you removed in a way that will make headlines." "You don't scare me." Minho moved so fast Natasha barely saw it. One moment Marcus was standing, the next he was slammed against the wall with Minho's hand around his throat. Not choking him, but the threat was clear. "Let me explain something," Minho said softly. His words meant only for Marcus, but carrying just enough for Natasha to hear. "You had something precious and you threw it away. That was your first mistake. Coming near her again was your second. But insulting her in front of me, in front of business associates, in front of an entire restaurant, that's the mistake you won't survive." Security appeared but hesitated when they saw who was involved. The restaurant manager rushed over, apologizing to Minho while pointedly ignoring Marcus's distress. "Mr. Kong, please. We don't want trouble. Then remove this man from your establishment and add him to your banned list. If I ever see him in a place I'm dining again, I'll consider it a personal insult." Marcus was hauled away, Chelsea following with tears streaming down her face. The other diners returned to their meals as though nothing had happened. Just another scene in Seoul's dangerous social hierarchy. Minho returned to Natasha, his hands gentle as they cupped her face. "Are you all right? You could have killed him." "I wanted to. Still do. But you asked me to go slowly, to be careful. So I'm giving him chances he doesn't deserve." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Say the word and I'll stop being merciful." Natasha saw the truth in his eyes. He would kill for her. Would destroy Marcus Webb completely if she asked. The knowledge should have horrified her. Instead, it made her feel valued in a way she'd never experienced. "Let's just go home," she whispered. "Home? Your place. My place. Anywhere but here." They left the restaurant, Minho's business associates understanding without needing explanation. In the car, silence pressed down like a weight. Natasha stared out the window, watching Seoul blur past, trying to process everything she felt. Minho's hand found hers in the darkness, threading their fingers together. The touch anchored her, reminded her she wasn't alone anymore. "I hate that he still has power over you," Minho said quietly. "I hate that his words can hurt you after everything he did. I hate it too. I hate that I'm not stronger. That I let him make me doubt myself. You are strong. Strong enough to survive him. Strong enough to rebuild. Strong enough to let someone else care about you even when every instinct says it's dangerous." The car pulled up to Minho's building. Without discussing it, they both headed to his penthouse rather than her apartment. Natasha needed to be somewhere that felt safe, and Minho's space had become that place. Inside his home, tension thrummed between them like a living thing. Minho poured them both whiskey, his movements careful and controlled. But Natasha saw the rage still simmering beneath his surface. Saw the way his hands shook slightly as he handed her the glass. "You're still angry," she observed. "I'm furious. At him. At myself for not handling this differently. At the world for putting you in situations where men like him think they can treat you like nothing." He downed his whiskey in one swallow. "I want to hurt him, Natasha. Want to make him understand what it feels like to be humiliated and broken. And it's taking everything I have not to make that happen." "Why don't you?" "Because you asked me to be careful. Because despite what people think, I'm not a monster who acts on every violent impulse." Minho's laugh was bitter. "At least not anymore. You make me want to be better than I am." Natasha set down her untouched whiskey and moved to stand in front of him. Her hands came up to frame his face, forcing him to look at her. "You are better than you think. You saved me when no one else would. You gave me a job when I had nothing. You treat me with respect Marcus never showed me." Her voice softened. "You make me feel valuable. Do you understand how rare that is?" Minho's hands settled on her waist, pulling her closer until their bodies pressed together from chest to thigh. The contact sent electricity through her. I don't want to be just your employer. Don't want to be just the man who protects you from your past. His forehead pressed against hers. I want more, Natasha. Want everything. But I'm terrified of pushing too hard and losing you completely. You're not going to lose me. Promise me. Promise me you won't run. Won't decide this is too complicated or dangerous or impossible. She should promise nothing. Should keep her options open. Should protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak. But looking into Minho's eyes, seeing his vulnerability beneath all that power, Natasha found herself incapable of lying. I promise I'll stay as long as you want me. Forever then. His lips brushed hers, barely a touch. I want you forever. The kiss that followed was nothing like their first almost kiss weeks ago. This was need and hunger and weeks of denied desire finally finding release. Minho's mouth claimed hers with possessive intensity, and Natasha opened for him, pouring all her confused feelings into the connection between them. His hands moved from her waist to her back, pressing her closer. She felt the hard planes of his body, the evidence of his desire, the trembling in his muscles as he fought for control. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were wild. Tell me to stop, Minho said roughly. Tell me you're not ready and I'll back off. I'll wait as long as you need. Natasha knew what the smart answer was. But she was so tired of being smart, being careful, being the good girl who did everything right and still ended up broken. I don't want you to stop. The words came out stronger than she felt. I want this. Want you. You're sure? Because once we cross this line, I'm sure. She kissed him again, eliminating any doubt. Make me forget everything but this. Make me forget Marcus and humiliation and being worthless. Make me feel like I matter. Something in Minho's expression shifted, hunger tempered with tenderness, desire mixed with determination. He lifted her into his arms with ease, carrying her toward his bedroom while she wrapped her legs around his waist and kissed every inch of skin she could reach. They tumbled onto his bed in a tangle of expensive fabric and hungry touches. Minho's hands learned her curves with reverent attention, whispering Korean words she didn't understand but felt in her bones. When they finally came together, when he made her his in every way that mattered, Natasha felt something fundamental shift inside her chest. This was more than physical. More than comfort. This was connection that scared her with its intensity, with how right it felt to be wrapped around him while he whispered her name like prayer. Later, they lay tangled together, heartbeat slowing, reality creeping back in. Minho's fingers traced patterns on her spine, and Natasha felt his contentment like warmth seeping into her bones. Stay, he murmured against her hair. Don't go back to your apartment tonight. Stay here with me. Okay, she whispered, too overwhelmed to argue. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, and for the first time in years, Natasha felt safe enough to dream of futures instead of just surviving present moments. She woke alone. Panic seized her immediately, irrational but overwhelming. The space beside her was cold, and for a terrifying moment, she thought Minho had left. Thought he'd gotten what he wanted and disappeared like Marcus always had. Then she heard sounds from the kitchen. Smelled coffee. Released a breath she didn't know she was holding. Natasha found him making breakfast, shirtless and perfect in the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. He looked up when she entered, and his smile was soft in a way she'd never seen. Good morning. I was going to bring you breakfast in bed, but you woke up too soon. You cook. I have many hidden talents. He pulled her close, kissing her with easy affection. Did you sleep well? Better than I have in years. Natasha hesitated, vulnerability making her voice small. I thought you left. Thought you'd regret last night. Minho's expression turned fierce. Look at me. Really look at me. He waited until her eyes met his. I don't regret anything about last night. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. Not making you mine weeks ago. I am yours. Completely. Irrevocably. In every way that matters. His hand came up to cup her face. And I'm yours too. That's how this works. They ate breakfast together with easy intimacy, discussing nothing important and everything that mattered. It felt domestic and perfect, and Natasha let herself believe it could last. Later that morning, Her phone rang. Unknown number. Against instinct, she answered. Natasha Okoye? A woman's voice, Korean accented and cold. This is Detective Park from Seoul Metropolitan Police. We need to speak with you about Marcus Webb. Her blood went cold. What about him? He was found dead this morning in his apartment. Murdered. And you're currently a person of interest in our investigation. The world tilted sideways. Natasha looked at Min-ho, who had gone absolutely still, his expression unreadable. I didn't kill anyone, she managed. Then you won't mind coming to the station to answer some questions. We can do this the easy way or the difficult way. Miss Okoye. Your choice. I'll come. Give me an hour. She hung up with shaking hands. Min-ho was already on his phone, speaking rapid Korean to someone. When he ended the call, his face was granite. What happened? Natasha asked, though part of her already knew. Marcus is dead. They think I did it. You didn't. You were with me all night. I'm your alibi. But they'll think you're lying to protect me. They'll think we killed him together. Panic was building in her chest. This is it. Everything falls apart. I lose everything again. No. Min-ho gripped her shoulders. You lose nothing. I have the best lawyers in Seoul. We'll handle this. But first, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. What? Do you think I killed him? Do you think I murdered Marcus Webb to protect you? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Natasha looked into Min-ho's eyes and saw no guilt, only concern for her. No, she said finally. You would have told me. You wouldn't hide something like that. You're right. I didn't kill him. But I know who did. What? The men I had followed him, the ones making sure he didn't try to approach you again, they reported unusual activity last night. Someone else was watching him. Professional surveillance, not my people. Min-ho's jaw clenched. Someone wanted Marcus dead and they're trying to frame you for it. Why would anyone do that? Because you're connected to me now. Because hurting you hurts me. Because someone is making a move against my organization and they're using you as the weapon. Fear iced through Natasha's veins. What do? We go to the police. We tell them the truth. You were with me all night. Then my people find who really killed Marcus and we handle it my way. The police station was exactly as cold and unwelcoming as Natasha expected. Detective Park was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who looked at Natasha with suspicion barely concealed. Thank you for coming in voluntarily, Park said in careful English. This can go much easier if you cooperate. I didn't kill Marcus Webb. I was nowhere near him last night. Can anyone verify that? I can. Min-ho's voice carried authority that made even the detective pause. Natasha was with me from 7 p.m. until this morning. We had dinner, returned to my home, and she never left. I have building security footage that proves it. Park's eyes narrowed. How convenient that she was with someone of your resources and influence, Mr. Kong. Someone who could easily manufacture an alibi. I don't manufacture anything. I'm telling you facts. Natasha didn't kill anyone. But you wanted Marcus Webb dead. Multiple witnesses heard you threaten him at a restaurant last night. Heard you promise consequences if he comes near Miss Okoye again. Min-ho's expression didn't change. I make a lot of threats, detective. Very few of them result in actual violence. I'm a businessman, not a killer. The interrogation continued for hours, circling the same questions. Natasha's head pounded and exhaustion pulled at her bones. But Min-ho never left her side, never let them separate them, his presence a constant anchor. Finally, Park leaned back in her chair. You're free to go. For now. But don't leave Seoul, Miss Okoye. This investigation is far from over. Outside the station, Natasha collapsed against Min-ho's car, an adrenaline crash hitting her hard. He wrapped her in his arms, letting her shake without judgment. They think I did it, she whispered. They think I killed him. They think wrong. And my people are already working to prove it. Min-ho tilted her face up. Someone is playing a dangerous game. Using Marcus's death to target you, to target me. But we're going to find them and end this. How? By being smarter than they are. By protecting what's ours. His kiss was fierce and possessive. You trust me? Yes. Then let me handle this. Let me keep you safe while we figure out who's really behind this. The next few days were tense. Natasha couldn't work, couldn't focus, couldn't do anything but wait for the inevitable moment when police returned with more questions or evidence or accusations. Min-ho kept her close, never letting her out of his sight for more than minutes at a time. His people worked around the clock investigating Marcus's death. Security footage, financial records, phone logs, everything that might point to the real killer. And slowly, a picture emerged. Chelsea, Marcus's girlfriend, had been the last person to see him alive. And she had connections to a rival organization that wanted Min-ho's territory. She used him, Min-ho explained as they reviewed evidence together. Got close to Marcus specifically to get access to you. When he wasn't useful anymore, she killed him and tried to frame you. 2 birds, 1 stone. Eliminate Marcus, who was making noise about seeking revenge, and put you in prison where you're vulnerable. Why? Why go through all this trouble? Because I care about you. Because hurting you weakens me. Because in my world, relationships are weapons that enemies exploit. Natasha felt sick. This is my fault. If I hadn't gotten involved with you. Stop. Min-ho gripped her shoulders. This is not your fault. This is criminals doing criminal things. You're not responsible for other people's violence. But I'm the reason you're vulnerable now. And you're the reason I have something worth protecting. Worth fighting for. Worth building a future around. His forehead pressed against hers. Don't you dare feel guilty for being loved, Natasha. That's not how this works. Later that day, the police came for Chelsea. The evidence was overwhelming. Her fingerprints in Marcus's apartment despite claiming she hadn't been there, financial transfers from known criminals, security footage of her leaving his building at the estimated time of death. She confessed within hours, cutting deals and naming names to reduce her sentence. The whole conspiracy unraveled, a rival organization trying to weaken Min-ho by targeting people close to him. Chelsea had been their inside agent, and Marcus had been collateral damage. When Detective Park called to clear Natasha officially, the relief was overwhelming. She cried in Min-ho's arms for an hour, releasing weeks of tension and fear. It's over, he murmured against her hair. You're safe. You're clear. You're mine, and no one can take that away. I'm yours, she repeated, the words feeling like truth and promise and forever. 2 months later, Min-ho took Natasha to dinner at the same expensive restaurant where Marcus had confronted them. She wore another designer dress, sapphire blue this time, and moved through the space with confidence she'd earned through surviving. Why did you want to come back here? She asked as they were seated at the best table. Because the last time we were here, Marcus tried to make you feel small. I want to replace that memory with something better. The evening was perfect. Excellent food, better wine, conversation that flowed easily. They laughed and talked and touched each other with the comfort of 2 people who'd survived hell together and come out stronger. Dessert arrived with something extra, a small velvet box placed carefully beside Natasha's plate. Her heart stopped. Min-ho. Open it. Inside was a ring. Stunning, tasteful, clearly expensive but not ostentatious. A promise made in diamonds and platinum. Marry me, Min-ho said quietly. Not a question. A statement of inevitability. Be my wife for real this time, not just in lies I tell to protect you. Build a life with me. Let me spend forever proving you made the right choice when you let me catch you falling. Tears burned Natasha's eyes. This is insane. We've only known each other a few months. I knew I wanted you forever within hours of meeting you. Everything since then has just been confirmation. His hand found hers across the table. Say yes, Natasha. Let me love you the way you deserve. She should think about this logically. Should consider all the ways this could go wrong. Should protect herself from potential heartbreak. But Natasha had spent too many years being careful and safe and still ending up hurt. Min-ho was dangerous and possessive and absolutely certain about what he wanted. And what he wanted was her, completely, permanently, irrevocably. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." His smile was brilliant and beautiful. He slid the ring onto her finger, kissed her knuckles, then pulled her up and kissed her properly while the entire restaurant watched and applauded. They married 3 months later in a ceremony that blended Korean and Nigerian traditions. Natasha wore white and gold, her curls styled in elaborate braids, her curves celebrated rather than hidden. Min-ho looked devastatingly handsome in traditional Korean hanbok, his eyes never leaving her face. His vows were simple and devastating. "I promise to protect you, to value you, to never make you feel less than precious, to build a life where you're safe and loved and free to become everything you're meant to be." Hers were just as honest. "I promise to trust you even when fear says I shouldn't, to stand beside you through whatever comes, to love you even when you're being impossible, to build this life together as equals, as partners, as forever." They sealed their promises with a kiss that tasted like hope and new beginnings. 1 year after their wedding, Natasha stood in Min-ho's, their penthouse, watching Seoul glitter in the darkness. Her hand rested on her rounded belly, feeling their daughter kick with familiar insistence. Min-ho appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about? How different my life is now. A year ago, I was homeless and broken. Today I'm married to the most powerful man in Seoul and growing our baby. It doesn't feel real. It's real. You're real. We're real." His hand covered hers on her belly. "Our daughter is going to be brilliant and beautiful just like her mother. And she's going to grow up knowing she's valued, knowing she has choices, knowing that power comes from being true to yourself. You're going to be a wonderful father. I'm going to try. I'm going to be better than I am. For her. For you. For us." Min-ho turned her in his arms. "I love you, Natasha. More than I thought I was capable of loving anyone. You saved me just as much as I saved you." She kissed him softly. "We saved each other." And it was true. They had found each other in darkness, in violence, in the worst moment of Natasha's life. But from that meeting, they'd built something beautiful. Something lasting. Something that proved love could grow even in the hardest places. Their daughter, Min-jae, named for strength, was born on a rainy Seoul morning 6 months later. She had Natasha's dark eyes and Min-ho's sharp features and the lungs to make her presence known immediately. Min-ho held his daughter with a tenderness that made Natasha cry, whispering promises in Korean and English about the life they'd give her. The safety. The love. The certainty that she was wanted beyond measure. Natasha watched her husband become a father and felt her heart expand with more love than she thought possible. This was her family. Her life. Her happily ever after that had started with humiliation in a shopping mall and grown into something beyond her wildest dreams. Marcus's cruelty had been meant to destroy her. Instead, it had led her to the man who would spend every day proving she was worth the world. Min-ho's protection had been meant to control her. Instead, it had given her space to become the woman she was always meant to be. Together, they had built an empire of their own, not of money or power, but of love and trust and the absolute certainty that whatever came next, they would face it together. And that was worth more than anything else. Thank you so much for joining us on Natasha and Min-ho's incredible journey from that devastating moment in the mall to their beautiful life together. If this story touched your heart, made you believe in second chances and the power of fierce love, please hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Was it when Min-ho first claimed her as his wife, when he confronted Marcus, or when he proposed? Your support means everything and helps me bring you more stories of strong women and the powerful men who fight for them. Until next time, besties, remember that your lowest moment might just be the beginning of your greatest love story.